meetings of the City of Lakeland Historic Preservation Board and Design Review Committee. The board and committee meet on a monthly basis to review proposals for changes to properties located within the city's 7 historic districts and buildings designated as local landmarks, as well as to hear nominations for new historic designations and conduct other preservation-related business, consistent with Article 11 of the Land Development Code. The board is made up of Lakeland citizens appointed by the City Commission and is assisted by the staff of the Community and Economic Development Department, as well as the City Attorney's Office. The first meeting consists of the Historic Preservation Board agenda, where business of the board is handled, including recommendations of new historic designations. The second meeting consists of the Design Review Committee agenda and involves acting on recommendations from staff regarding certificate of review applications for major work proposed to properties within historic districts or local landmark buildings. The Design Review Committee is a standing subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Board. And in accordance with city protocol regarding COVID-19 pandemic, face coverings must be worn while attending the meeting, but can be removed when addressing the board. Public input is welcomed for items on the Design Review Committee's agenda, and we invite everyone who wishes to participate to be heard. We do ask that speakers be concise and avoid repetitive comments, and we thank you for your interest and participation and ask that all mobile devices are silenced at this time. So with that, I will turn the meeting over to our board chair, Mr. Dan Fowler.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order, the January 28th, 2021 Historic Preservation Board meeting. And we'll start with our roll call. Dan Fowler is obviously here. Lynn Dennis. Here. And Landis Fleming.
Here.
And Christopher McMatchin is out. Jeremy Moses is here. Yep. And Christopher Olson.
Here.
Mylinda Rinker.
Here.
And John White.
Here, present.
We have a quorum. Have you all had a chance to review last month's meetings, and do we have any corrections or additions or a motion to approve?
I would move to approve the minutes of the December 17th meeting of the Preservation Board. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. We have no old business. New business?
Yeah, so at our December meeting, it was brought up that basically we've talked about in our planning projects about resurveying the historic districts quite, at length. And it was asked whether or not we could apply for a grant to pursue such a project. I am working to get a cost estimate from some consultants so that we can plan for that and see if that is something that can be done in this year's city budget. It may be a case where we can apply for a grant this year, knowing that it would be next calendar year when the project would actually take place. So the wheels are in motion for this project. I just don't have any substantive information for you at this point, but we are working on it.
Thank you for the update, Emily. Appreciate it. The other new business was a legal suggestion, and our legal counsel is not here. So
yes.
I guess
I would ask that we postpone this.
Yep.
We may be able to reconvene after our design review committee meeting today, or we may postpone this agenda item until next month. If Mr. Simpson does show up at some point during the meeting, maybe we can again have that discussion after the design review committee agenda.
Yeah, I suggest we would table that, or we can play it by ear and see just how long the design review runs if he comes back. So
right.
So we'll do that then.
Okay.
Then there being no further business for the Preservation Board meeting, do we have a motion to adjourn? And
So moved.
motion and a second. All in approval?
Aye.
Opposed? No. So the Preservation Board meeting is a quick conclusion, and now Design Review Committee meeting will start.
I'd like to call to order the January 28th, 2021 meeting of the Design Review Committee and take roll call. Lynn Dennis. Dan Fowler,
Here?
Landis Fleming,
Here?
Jeremy Moses,
Here.
Chris McMichael is not here, Melinda Rinker. Here. John White,
Present.
and we have a quorum. Have you all had a chance to review the minutes from the December 17th meeting?
I would move approval of the minutes of the December 17th meeting of the Design Review Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. Now we will consider the certificates of review that were administratively approved between 12/8/20 and 1/21/21. There were 26 cases. Are there any questions from the committee, of the staff, any discussion? All righty. Hearing none, we will move on to the public hearing portion of the meeting for the certificate of review applications. And we will start with HPB 20-211, 121 South Lincoln Avenue. Final approval requested for the new construction of a one-story, single-family house on the property at this address. The owner is Merlin Properties of Central Florida, LLC. The applicant, Ms. Yalitza Paramount Building. Do I have any conflicts of interest among the committee members? All right, hearing none. Staff report, please.
All righty, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so the subject property consists of one lot and a portion of a second lot of record, which total 0.26 acres in size. My PowerPoint is hanging up. Okay. On the subject property is a single-family house built circa 1954, which features a gabled roof and is masonry vernacular in style. This house has been altered by the installation of replacement windows that appear to be incompatible with our design guidelines. Also, a masonry detached two-car garage exists on the western side of the property. These buildings are both non-contributing buildings within the Dixieland Historic District. The applicant proposes to reorient the main entrance of the house from the east elevation that currently faces South Lakeland Avenue to a new doorway on the south elevation that faces West Belmar Street. An existing window on the south elevation will be removed to accommodate the new entrance doorway, in which a masonite full-light door will be installed. A wooden gabled roofed overhang supported by 6x6 wood posts will be added to the new entrance for cover from the elements. And the existing front porch and doorway on the east elevation will remain as is. And I just wanted to point out there was a mistake in the staff report that said that the new overhang on the south elevation was a shed-roofed structure. It actually, as you can see from the elevation drawing, is a gabled roof. This is just a slide showing the existing floor plan and new floor plan, showing that new entryway on the south elevation. So this request originated from the applicant's request to the city's planning division to split the property along a proposed new property line running north to south in order to meet the city's land development code regarding both the zoning district, development, and subdivision regulations. Splitting the subject property will create a new parcel which the applicant may use for the construction of a new single-family house in the future. The site plan for the proposed lot split has been found to meet front entrance, lot dimension, building setbacks, and parking requirements by planning staff, and will require that the property be given a new address reflecting West Belmar Street. Additional work was included on the application for this request and will be administratively reviewed and approved by staff separately following the approval of the primary request by the Design Review Committee. This additional work includes demolition of the existing concrete block detached garage on the property, construction of a new 10-foot wide driveway on the north side of the property, installation of a metal storage shed in the rear yard of the property, and relocation of the existing electric meter from the south elevation to the west elevation of the house. And this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced. So generally, changes to individual lot lines from the pattern established by historic platted subdivisions is not supported by staff due to historical development patterns that provide a foundation for historic context, setting, and designation of Lakeland's historic districts. However, given the change in lot orientation found in the George subdivision west of South Lincoln Avenue, as compared to the Dixieland subdivision east of Lincoln Avenue, and the variation of orientation of buildings in this area, the splitting of the subject property along a non-platted lot line can be supported. So alterations to non-contributing buildings may be offered more flexibility than contributing buildings in terms of consistency with the standards and guidelines, but alterations must not affect the architectural integrity of adjacent contributing buildings or diminish the historical character of the overall historic district. While staff finds that the proposed reorientation of the front door from the east to south elevation will not adversely affect surrounding contributing buildings or the character of the Dixieland Historic District, this alteration could be done in a way that is more compatible with the masonry vernacular character of the house. Staff recommends the following changes to the request. Number one, that the overhang gable end should be clad in the sawtooth vertical siding, similar in dimension and profile as that existing on the gables of the house. And number two, install a French or full light door on the existing doorway on the east elevation of the home to convey the appearance of a secondary doorway. And with that, as the request does meet the intent of the standards and design guidelines, staff recommends final approval of the request with the two conditions just mentioned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Paramore, are you here? Or is there a representative here? Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. We will move then to close the public portion unless there are questions that we can't ask because we don't have a representative for consideration.
The committee can discuss the request and ask questions of staff, but
Okay, but it's not for clarification.
yeah, it's not mandatory that a representative attend the meeting, but it is highly
Right.
encouraged. So.
Right. Okay. Do we have any discussion? Any questions?
I would have had a question for the owner, but
Not something Emily can help with.
no.
Okay.
Anyone?
I have a comment here. You mentioned that the windows were put in, at what point were they put in? Were they permitted? Are they?
It appears that they were not permitted. I don't have a good, feel on when they were installed, probably within the last 10 years. We have another home on the agenda today that is right across the street from this house that has similar non-permitted incompatible windows. This is a problem in our historic districts, unfortunately.
There's really nothing to be done, though, at this point.
At this point, right, there isn't anything to be done. The applicant could formally request that these windows are granted approval by the committee, just for blessing. But since staff can't prove
Right.
when they were installed,
And
it's
it
a
is
tricky
a
situation.
non-contributing building, correct?
Correct.
No, okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we may, this sidebar, but we may want to have a board workshop at some point of just about windows. I think it would warrant it.
Yes, because I feel like this has become an issue over and over again, that we're kind of left in the air with, well, how do we handle this? And we proceed from there.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion? If there's,
I had a
Yeah.
question I would have had to the owner is why their new front entrance element is so small. And, as the front entrance to a home, it looks more like a rear entrance. It seems like if it was larger, it would be not only better for the house, but it would tell the neighborhood that we're not doing, it's just a nicer appearance for the neighborhood too, not to look like, the new entrance is a rear entrance. So I think it should be enlarged.
Yeah, and
Yes.
of course, I can't answer for the applicant, but I think they were trying to utilize the existing width of the window that's there for that conversion. And also, really, this is a zoning requirement that the Land Development Code requires, is that the primary entrance, when you reorient a lot, the primary entrance of a house needs to be on that new
Right.
primary facade.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of,
Right, and this is less intrusive to the fabric of the house.
right.
So
I think
Dan,
we could still use the same window as the door location, just widen the structure.
Okay,
exactly,
Porch
that's what I
parts.
was gonna say,
Okay.
Dan. Widen the slab and widen the structure, but leave the door, yeah.
Right, because if they put like more of a porch width there, it's going to appear more like an actual entrance as opposed to a side or rear entrance, which it does appear way more like a rear entrance
right.
as it looks.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Should we table this until the applicant is
That is up to your
available?
authority if you'd like to do that.
Why don't we table it? And
I need a motion.
I would like to motion to table this until the next meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
It's early.
Opposed? All right, the consideration is then tabled to the next.
Emily, when you notify them of the tabling, can you tell them our concern?
Yes, yeah,
So they
we'll
can
share those.
be prepared to address that?
Yep, absolutely. And I did just get a note that Jared won't be joining us this morning, so I would just plan on postponing that item from our HPB agenda to next month.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to our next applicant, HPB 20-20, or 215, and it's 15 Lake Hollingsworth Drive. Final approval requested for the conversion of a second floor window to a double French door in addition of a second floor balcony. The owner is John Michael Weber. The applicant is Mr. William Wendell, Winpro, Inc. All right, any conflicts on the committee?
No.
Staff recommendation?
Thank you. Okay, so the subject property is a corner property consisting of 3 lots of record with a total area of 0.47 acres. On this property is a 2-story frame vernacular home built circa 1922, which is a contributing building in the South Lake Morton Historic District. The architectural style of this house was classified as frame vernacular on the Florida Master Site File inventory form for the district, but it also exhibits elements of the Prairie, Neoclassical, and Colonial Revival styles. Building features that express these styles include a hipped roof and eaves with a wide overhang, textured stucco cladding, full-height square porch columns, a modestly pedimented main doorway, and double-hung sash windows with an evenly divided upper sash in colonial pane configurations. Alterations include a 1-story addition on the east elevation and a significant alteration to the front facade. As evidenced from the 1922 to 1947 Sanborn Fire Insurance Company maps for Lakeland, a 1-story semi-enclosed porch or porch-like structure originally existed on the front of this house during these years. At some point, perhaps in the 1950s or 60s, when the neoclassical and colonial revival styles began to be reinvented and used on modern residences, staff believes this 1-story structure was removed and the full-height porch columns were installed. Additional alterations to the front facade of the home may also have occurred. Additional property records indicate that between 1947 and 1957, the 1-story residence, once located to the north of the subject house, was demolished, and this lot, number 13, was combined with the subject property. The request proposes to convert the triple window on the 2nd story of the front facade to a pair of fiberglass French doors matching the style and dimensions of the existing French doors on the ground floor facade. Shutters similar to the existing shutters on the ground floor will be installed on the new doorway. Also proposed is a new second floor balcony spanning the width of the front facade, consisting of wood construction and an ornamental metal handrail in a design similar to the ground floor porch handrail. This request was evaluated using the specific standards and guidelines referenced. And second-story balconies and porches can be found on a variety of contributing buildings in Lakeland's historic districts. In evaluating the request, staff finds that the front facade of the subject house has been altered over time and reflects an eclectic mix of architectural styles. Because of the previous alteration to the front facade, both the window-to-door conversion and balcony addition will not adversely affect the architectural character of the South Lake Morton Historic District or integrity of the home. The request represents a change that is compatible with the architectural style of the home, while still conveying the full height nature of the existing columns and openness of the front porch area. Additionally, staff finds that this change is potentially reversible and will be differentiated by modern but compatible materials. So as such, staff does recommend approval of the request as submitted, with the condition that the windows to be removed are done in a sensitive manner and offered for architectural salvage rather than just to be disposed of.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Emily. Is Mr. Wendell here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I think, John Michael Weber, I think it provides a nice aesthetic improvement to the house.
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry, could you come up to the podium and just state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
John Michael Weber, 15 Lake Hollingsworth Drive. We, really believe that it offers a nice aesthetic addition to the home and really provides a nice addition to the neighborhood, and are excited to see how the house will look as a result. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any public comment? Any questions from the committee? If not, we'll move to close the public portion of this review and move to committee discussion. Is there any discussion?
I think it's a fine
It's a
addition.
great old house. Still call it the bishop's house, but
Yeah, fun to work on.
yeah. If none, then I ask for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
And
Okay,
can I,
we'll take,
Oh, I guess per staff
okay,
recommendation.
thank you.
Yes.
very good.
Do we have a
Okay,
second on,
We got,
we did,
I think we're okay, Melinda. Okay.
I'm
Have
sorry.
a motion and a second for approval of the request as presented with staff recommendations.
White and Fleming.
Take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
Four.
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Chris McMichael isn't here, Melinda Rinker,
for the motion.
and John White.
For the motion.
And the motion is approved. Great, thank you so much.
Where's
Yay.
our that was easy button?
That was, yes, we'd have the easy button on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to, well, as you'll note, item C, which was HPB 21-006, has been withdrawn. So we'll move on then to HPB 21-008, 725 West Park Street. Final approval requested for the new construction of a single-family house on the property at this address. The owner applicant is Ms. Suzanne Butner. Are there any conflicts of interest on the committee? Thanks. Then I would ask for the staff report and recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, the subject property is a vacant platted lot in the Dixieland Historic District and has alley access to the rear. This lot consists of 0.15 acres. The proposed new construction is a one-story single-family house with approximately 1,768 square feet of living space. The house features a frame vernacular aesthetic with a gabled roof and an integrated front porch, supported by square columns, and also has a triangular gable vent in the front and rear gables. The home also features horizontal lap siding and 1/1 windows. And this is just the side elevations of the home. So materials proposed for the new home include a concrete stem wall foundation raised 18 inches above curb with stucco finish on the foundation, hardy board lap siding with a 6-inch exposure, vinyl single hung sash windows with a 1/1 light configuration, a quarter light 3-panel entry doors and a double glass sliding door on the rear elevation, asphalt architectural shingles on a 512 pitch roof with hardy fascia and vinyl soffit, and a concrete porch floor and steps with wood handrail and craftsman-style wood columns. The site plan for the new house shows orientation of the front facade towards West Park Street, and the house maintains setbacks consistent with the Land Development Code's urban form standards, including a 20-foot front setback, an 8-foot 8-inch side setbacks, and a 50-foot rear setback. And this request was evaluated using the standards and guidelines referenced. So the 700 block of West Park Street features modest single-family houses, many of which are variations of the bungalow and frame vernacular styles. The architectural design of the proposed new home is modeled on the new home proposed for 324 West Park Street, which is seen on the upper left, and that was approved by the Design Review Committee back in 2017. So the design of the proposed new house features a neo-traditional style resembling frame vernacular, which will not adversely affect the historic or architectural character of the Dixieland Historic District. The simple architectural detailing is consistent with the frame vernacular style, as well as the design guidelines. Staff finds that the building's form and scale of building elements, as well as the proposed materials, are consistent with the guidelines. However, for further compatibility with the surrounding contributing buildings and the design guidelines, as well as to correct a foundation issue not correctly executed on the new house at 324 West Park Street, staff recommends the following revisions to the proposed home's design. And there's quite a few of them, so bear with me. The finished floor height of the house must be 21 inches above grade. Finished floor height of the front porch can be slightly lower at 18 inches above grade. Provide wider column capitals and bases to visually differentiate them from the column shaft. Align porch columns with the entablature beam. Column capitals should extend slightly past that beam. Increase the width of the frieze boards to 10 inches to differentiate from the siding exposure and add a frieze board to the rear elevation gable. Window and door trim and casing should be hardy material and a minimum width of at least 3 inches. Windows must have a header, sill, and apron trim, and paired windows must have a vertical dividing mullion of at least 3 inches wide. All windows must be recessed to provide a shadow line and cannot be flush mounted. Corner boards at least 6 inches in width should be added to all corners of the house, and a small gable or shed roof overhang with simple wood brackets should be added over the rear entry door from the elements in consistency with the frame vernacular style. And placement of the proposed house on the lot is consistent with the design guidelines in terms of orientation and setbacks. A parking area for 2 vehicles placed at the rear of the property with access from the alley must be shown on the site plan for planning and zoning approval of the project. So as the request meets the intent of the standards and design guidelines for new construction, staff recommends approval of the request with the stated conditions to be reviewed and approved at a staff level prior to permitting. And then this slide just basically summarizes all of those conditions that I read.
Okay. Ms. Butner, are you present? Do you have any comments or anything to add?
No, I don't see any problem with
The staff recommendations? Okay. Are there any comments from the public?
the only thing that, would this hold up?
Ms. Butner, if you'd step up to the microphone, that would be great.
Suzanne Batner. Would it hold up the construction being
Okay.
permitted and moving forward?
It shouldn't, as long as those changes are made to the architectural drawings and submitted with the building permit, then it won't hold up the building
We'll have
permit
to come
process.
back through here.
I'm sorry.
We don't have to come back through the committee again?
No, I'm recommending that those conditions be approved by staff, not by committee.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, if there are no public comments, are there any questions from the committee? Oh, I'm sorry, committee members?
I'm not part of committee, but in that quasi area. Hey, I don't see any call out specifically, Emily, to the grid pattern on those windows, and they don't show any grid pattern on any of the drawings. Do we need to specify a grid pattern?
So that's a good question. With the previous house, and let me flip back to 324. So on the upper left-hand side, that's 324 West Park Street. And you can see there it does have a 9-light upper sash. Our design guidelines don't call for a simulated divided light appearance on windows for new construction, but that is certainly something that the committee could recommend or could, add as a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Does the committee have any other questions? If not, I'll move the public portion and we'll move to committee discussion. Hearing none, I would ask for a motion. I know you're there.
I'll move for approval, consistent with staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Then we'll take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis, for the motion. Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For.
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
John White.
For the motion.
Motion passes, and the application is approved with staff recommendations.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Becker.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Don't lose my voice. Okay, next application for consideration. I think I'm skipping one here. Bear with me. No, we're good. Okay, we move on to HPB 21-009, 1923 Pawnee Trail. Final approval requested for accessory dwelling unit at this address. Owner Solid Rock Opportunities LLC. The applicant is Mr. Kenneth A. Harris. Are there any conflicts of interest on the committee? If none, we'd have a staff report and recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So the subject property is a platted lot in the Beacon Hill Historic District, which consists of 0.15 acres. On the property is a one-story, single-family house built circa 1922 in the Mediterranean Revival style, which is a contributing building in the Historic District. Architectural features expressing the Mediterranean Revival style include a flat roof surrounded by a stepped parapet roof, a full-width front porch with stepped parapet roof and segmental arched bays, rough cast stucco cladding, and single round scuppers. Alterations include metal replacement windows and the enclosed front porch. A detached garage matching the materials and design of the house also exists on the property in the southwestern corner. And these are just additional pictures of the house as is. As the house has not been occupied or maintained for quite some time, the applicant intends to remodel the home and update all mechanical systems. Roofing on both the house and the garage will be replaced. The garage roofing will remain a flat roof surrounded by a step parapet wall, but the main roof and parapet of the house will be removed and replaced with a 5/12 pitch gabled roof with a small arched window in the front and rear gables. The flat roof and parapet of the front porch will remain and will be repaired with in-kind materials. Staff has discussed with the applicant, the issue of changing the roof form of the house, which is inconsistent with both the design guidelines for historic properties and the Mediterranean Revival architectural style. And the applicant does understand this issue and desire to proceed with the request as is. And this is just a rendering showing the rear of the house as proposed. Several alterations are proposed for the front porch. The left side bay, or on the east elevation of the front porch, will be reopened and converted to a new entryway onto the porch. The existing entryway on the south elevation of the porch will be converted to an arched opening with a sidewall. The current porch steps at the existing entryway on the south elevation of the porch will be removed, and new steps and cheek walls will be installed on the opened left bay of the porch. A new front door is proposed to be installed on the new wall dividing the left and right bays of the porch, and with the right side of the porch remaining enclosed, new windows will be installed in the arched bay of both the front or east elevation and the side or north elevations. So all windows will be replaced in the house with new double hung sash windows matching the original opening size and with a 9-light prairie style upper sash. A prairie style front door with a transom and side lights and a solid rear door are also proposed. Specific materials proposed for this request include stucco matching the texture of the existing walls, including repairs and replacement where necessary. The existing trim and casing will be maintained or repaired using stucco casing to match the original trim. A metal or wood front door will be used. And the flat roof of the front porch and garage will be repaired in kind. Finally, architectural shingles or metal roofing is proposed on the proposed new gable roof of the house. So with the exception of the new front porch steps, the footprint of the house and detached garage will remain the same as existing, and therefore a site plan was not required for this request. The request was evaluated using the specific standards and guidelines referenced. And in evaluating the request with the standards and design guidelines, staff has made the following findings. Given that all existing doors and windows are replacement features, the proposed replacement windows and doors are consistent in type and style with respect to the standards and design guidelines, as well as with the Mediterranean Revival architectural style. The prairie 9-light style for both the upper sash of the windows and the front door has historic precedent on the Mediterranean Revival houses in Lakeland's historic districts. And the repairs to and or replacements of stucco with the flat roofing with in-kind materials with a similar appearance is consistent with the standards and guidelines. Staff recommends that the existing round roof scuppers or venting that is present in the front porch are repaired and maintained, as well as the foundation venting on the front porch. Given that the front porch is currently enclosed, the alterations as proposed to the front porch are found to meet the intent of the standards and design guidelines and respect the architectural character of the home. However, staff recommends that the right side bay of the front porch retain the full width of the segmental arched bay enclosure. It may be necessary to use a grouping of 3 windows in this bay instead of 2 to achieve a balanced proportion. And regarding the proposal to change the roof form on the main portion of the house from a flat roof with a parapet to a gable roof, staff finds this alteration to be inconsistent with the standards and design guidelines, as it removes a character-defining feature of the Mediterranean Revival architectural style, destroys historic materials, and is irreversible. The Beacon Hill Historic District contains 172 contributing historic buildings, but out of this number, only 6 residences are Mediterranean Revival, which makes the subject house a rare resource. So staff recommends approval of the request with the following conditions to be reviewed and approved at staff level prior to permitting. Number 1, retain and repair with in-kind materials the flat roof and parapet of the main portion of the house. A low-sloped roof hidden behind the parapet may be used instead of a flat roof for drainage purposes. Number 2, retain the width of the right side segmental arched bay enclosure of the front porch enclosure on its front facade, and it may be necessary to use a grouping of 3 windows in this bay instead of 2 to achieve a balanced proportion in this enclosure. And finally, number 3, retain and repair with in-kind materials the existing round roof scuppers, drains, and/or venting present in the front porch, as well as the vertical foundation venting slits on the front porch. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is Mr. Harris here? Do you have any comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Kenneth Harris, and I'm the owner and a general contractor. I brought some pictures. Would y'all like to see some pictures of other pictures so I can, as I go through this, explain it to you?
Supporting your request, yes, sir.
And Mr. Harris, I think we can show them on the screen if I can figure that out. See if that'll work. Yeah. We've got a camera over here, so.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So on the flat roof that exists right now, if you'll notice that first picture, there's one scuffer that goes out the back. And I don't really know the history of this house, and we just bought this, closing this house into December. And just to give you a background, a hoarder lived in the house. And this past weekend, we finished, I mean, there was stuff stacked to above the windows. This past weekend, we finished cleaning it out. And honestly, I don't know if I'm even gonna be able to save the house after cleaning it all out, because there's so much rot around the exterior. In this back window, if you look at your second picture, that is the inside of that back window. If you'll notice, there's no framing. The only thing standing there is the stucco. All the rest of the frame, there's rotten, the floor's all rotten out, and all around inside the house, the windows are rotting around. So I haven't got into the exterior walls to see how much damage there is, just to give you a notice. I really want to save it because of the historical value it has to it. The reason for the change to a gable roof is because I don't want to put more scuffers. I come to find out the scuffers you see there, other than the one in the middle, the one in the middle there above the 2 windows, that's the only scuffer for the water coming off now. The rest of them, I don't know, like I said, I don't know the history, but the rest of them are all below the roof inside, right above the ceiling. So over the years, I'm sure this is the second or third roof that has been put on or raised. And I don't really want to put a flat roof on and go cut more holes for more scuffers in the house, in the parapet wall. So I want to put a gable roof on there, and also there's not enough room in that attic space to run mechanical, to put a unit up there for doing all that, because it needs central heat and air also. Because there is no central heat and air; it's just window units. So that is the main reason. And you know, nothing against flat roofs, but you don't. In today's world on residential, I mean, we put them on commercial, but in residential, flat roofs pond, they last about 10 years. We put more scuffets in there, it's going to be more area problems for water to leak, to go bad. But probably one of the biggest reasons is the central heat and air, and putting a return unit up there. There's just not enough room to do all that. Now, if you'll look at that picture with the measurement to the scuffer, the third picture, you'll notice that is like 6 inches. That is from the ceiling. That is from the ceiling joist to that scuffer, 6 inches. And I think at one time, I'm not sure, I don't know the history, I think at one time there might have been water scuffers. Like I said, this house was built in 1922. It's hard to figure out, because if you look at the next picture on the outside the house, where the drain is, that is hooked up to a scuffer on the front porch that drains, that used to drain, it still drains, but, so that's why I don't know if them were, I'm sure once they were used as drains, what it looks like. But you can't lower that roof for sure, because the ceiling's too high to lower that roof to use them scuffers. There's about a 6 inch, or if you see, there's about a 6 inch clearance between the bottom of that scuffer and the top of that joist for that ceiling. So the best thing to do, like I said, I would love to save as much as this house as I possibly could. But the best thing to do is that I could come up with is you put a gable roof on there with a low pitch, and then it gives you room to run your mechanical and everything, and you're not cutting more into that parapet wall to put more scuffers in. It's just going to be trouble.
Any comments from the public on this?
Just to clarify, there's only one drain that's actually working.
Yeah,
And that's the rear scuffer on that.
There's only one scuffer.
right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And if you'll notice the last picture of a house that is on the same street, it looks like that's what they might have done. About 4 or 5 houses down from this house. And of course, I'm putting a flat roof on the front porch. There's not a flat roof on here, but I want to try, I can keep, the ceiling on the front porch is lower. So I believe I can make it work to drain the water off a flat roof on the front porch.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, how many scuffers are there throughout? I realize one's working, how many others?
I think there's 8 or 10.
What would it take to make those work? Like I'm not,
You would have to, you see where the picture where the scuffer is see the picture of the scuffer where it's 6 inches? See that 6 inches? But
Right.
Okay, that is to the ceiling of the house.
so it's 6 inches below the ceiling?
Yeah.
6
Okay.
inches, yeah, 6 inches from the top of the ceiling. You can't make them work because you can't lower the roof that much now.
Okay, so,
You'd almost be stacking the roof on top of your joists of your ceiling
okay.
to get them drains to work.
So you're wanting to take what's there totally off?
I'm gonna leave them, no, I'm gonna leave them just for looks. I'm gonna leave them in the side of the house, but I wanna put a gable roof up there. I mean, that's all they're there for now is, other than venting and looks.
Right, but you're removing the flat
The
roof
flat roof,
completely.
and I'm gonna put a gable roof on top of the parapet wall.
Okay, so why not remove the flat roof and put a flat roof back?
Because I don't wanna cut holes into the parapet wall for more scuffers.
Right, but isn't that just, and forgive my ignorance on this, but isn't that just a matter of cover it over and stucco it and put a new one in?
Well, it's just more headaches for leaks is what it is with scuffers.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too, and Mr. Harris, thank you for providing these pictures because they kind of give you a little bit more of a, history or context into the house.
Right.
As we talked on the phone, the round scuppers, they actually, at least some of them, may be venting for
Yeah,
the attic
Yeah.
and not actually meant to carry water off the roof.
It's just hard to say
It's
because
just
of the
hard,
we don't know
yeah.
the history, but I don't know why you would have, if you'll notice on that picture up right now, you'll see a scuffer to the right of that picture, and water does not drain through that scuffer. It only drains out of the middle. And like I said, it's just, commercial, flat roofs are okay. Residential, if you can maintain them and your elevations work right for central heat and air, it's really not that big of a deal. But in this situation, you don't have the room to run mechanical and put a return unit up there in that attic with this here.
But why not use a unit that doesn't go up in the attic?
It's gonna be central heat and air.
Right, but.
You gotta run your
there are
duct, you need to run,
units
you gotta
that
run your duct work and everything.
No, right, but what is that attic,
There's, see, there's no attic access or anything for this. There really is no attic.
what, but.
I'm gonna create an attic with a gable. They didn't have to worry about it then because they didn't have air conditioning.
Right, but there are also, yeah, I have it in one of my houses, the single outside units and, you know, can, I don't know, is there crawl space under this?
Yes.
There is.
Can it be ducted underneath and come
Yeah,
up?
but that's not,
That would avoid changing a contributing building that's what, one of six? That would give you a solution to be able to not change this contributing building and yet still have your AC and all of that available.
but if you go put scuffers above all the vents now, so it's gonna look, how do you think it'll look having double scuffers around the house?
Well, if you're using scuffers for drainage purposes and you slope the roof towards the back of the house, so you could add scuffers on the back of the house to carry the water off the back.
Yeah, but you don't want, what if you want to put a back porch back there? You don't want all your, really your drainage should go where there's non-activity off the side of the houses.
And gutters, and there's other solutions for diverting water.
Yeah, and I think, having dealt with one of these houses on
Yeah.
Hancock, there, as I recall, there were only 2 scuffers, if that, on the back.
Right.
Say that again, what?
There were only 2 scuffers on the back of the house that were draining, and a membrane roof was used to replace the existing roof, which had deteriorated.
Yeah, TPO or
And
membrane.
the interior ceiling was dropped to accommodate ducting for central heat and air.
You'd have to drop all the walls in the house, the whole inside of the house.
What are the ceiling heights right now?
Huh?
What are the ceiling
9
heights?
foot.
9 foot.
Why can't you add scuppers into the proper place and just leave those as faults?
Because I don't think that gives you the look that you're asking for in this. You're getting away from your look. There's no house like this that has double scuffers.
Right, but you can stucco over ones that aren't working and then move up to whatever height is needed to actual working scope.
Yeah, I mean, you can do anything.
Right.
But I don't, I mean, you can do anything, but I'm just trying to make sense from a financial standpoint also. It's also got to be financially and looking right to do all this. And when you start taking scuffers out and going over scuffers and adding scuffers, you're anytime with a flat roof, I've done enough flat roofs, you're asking for trouble down the road. I mean, flat roofs are good for about 10 years, 10 or 12 years, you start having problems with them. You have to keep them maintenance a lot, you have to keep drains unplugged.
Any comments from any of our architect members who are remaining silent?
Y'all are doing a good job.
Definitely so. You could get why can't you get a drain retaining the top of the parapet wall and just going up with a slight 1 in 12 or even a half in 12 drain towards the middle and not see the roof?
Say that again now? I didn't understand.
Your parapet is above your current scuppers.
That's right.
So you've got, what, 18 inches or so that you could get that much of a drain and still retain
I don't think you got 18 inches. I didn't measure it, but I didn't measure that from looking at it up there when I was, I don't believe you have, you don't have 18 inches. I have a picture on my phone that's not on here that looks through the ceiling. You might have 12 inches. Yeah, it's not, if I remember right, like I said, I didn't measure that. It's not, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the ceiling was raised is what had happened here too. It would be a 9-foot ceiling. So I couldn't figure it out for why them vents or whatever scuffers, but you sure don't, you never put a flat roof in with one scuffer. You know, but probably the biggest concern, even just as much as this, is you want to have a decent places, decent access to put your HVAC. I mean, we got to rewire, replumb, HVAC, everything. You know, I would love to, like I said, I hope I can save the walls. We have it, I have other pictures where all the windows are rotten on the inside. All the wood around the inside of the windows that we've got to them now are rotten, and I just don't know yet. I gotta get a better look at it in the next couple of weeks to see. Like I said, I would really love to save as much as I can of it, but I think you're gonna make it very difficult to keep a flat roof on there and do the HVAC the way it needs to be done. And I don't, you know, this house, the picture I showed you down the road, I don't know what the difference is really. Why? Same look, same design, and they have a gable roof on it.
Yeah, that home was built with a gabled roof, and it's kind of a hybrid between a Mediterranean revival and a bungalow.
So we're
But
halfway there.
it was built that way though, originally.
Well, to follow up, I think there are innovative solutions which would preserve the heritage of this home. You can go with a new, quote, flat roof, but actually give it a 1/4 inch per foot fall so it all is behind the parapet, run it to each side, and yeah, it makes sense. Raise the scuppers to above so they come out at the roof level, not run the piping below the roof and then patch the ones below. That's not hard to do. And you could add, you know, it doesn't matter if it's 3 scuppers down each side, you know, slope each direction. That's doable. You know, for air conditioning, I've seen solutions where it does have a crawl space. I've seen solutions where the ductwork is distributed there. I've seen solutions where if there's some, in hallways are often might be lowered 14, 16 inches and run the trunk down the hallway and distribute each direction into the spaces, that sort of thing. I think with some thinking like that, I think this thing can be preserved. So.
You mean the roof? The flat roof.
And today's single ply membranes, they last a lot longer than 10 years.
I just had one that lasted 30, so.
All right, any other questions from the committee? All right, then I'll ask for a motion.
Can we quickly put up your suggestions, please?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I'm going, scroll, where is it?
Of course, incidentally, I do love what you're doing to the front of the house. That's gorgeous.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Emily?
Yeah,
One-
sorry.
No, that's fine. One call out, just for accuracy in the notes, was on the summary page.
Okay.
It calls out an accessory dwelling rather than a major rehab.
Okay,
Just
thank
a
you.
Edit, yeah.
What, say that, what?
It's just an edit in the summary page.
On the title page, or the first page of the staff report? Thank you I'll correct that.
Hey, Emily, there was one,
Yes.
there was one more thing. Could you go to the back of the house of what we're proposing?
Sure, yeah. Let's see.
See the double windows by the stairway? That's not on there, but we want to turn it into a double door.
And that's something that could be considered for approval.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
now so I wouldn't have to come back.
Okay. That wasn't
Nobody
included in the
likes
staff
us.
report, but that's,
No problem
And
there.
don't get me wrong, trust me, we can do anything, but the most efficient way for this is with the gable roof, and cost-wise too, with the gable roof. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can drop ceilings and you can do all that, but cost-wise, the most efficient way is with the gable roof.
So the double windows would be a door. Is there a porch back there? What is there? I mean, what?
so with the, that little appendage that comes out, would you move that handrail, that stair?
Yeah, yeah, I just turned the French doors right there. I would move the stairs there and probably propose a back porch or something, or put stairs there to come down out them double windows. That steps down, that little building was added sometime. It's all block. That little addition there is all block. And it steps down about 6 or 8 inches from the original elevation in
Is
the
that what
house.
this is? This little,
Yeah, that's the back of it.
that's the back?
I can't see.
That, your first picture?
That is, yeah, that's the back, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
it's
correct.
Yeah, generally, alterations to the rear elevation are granted more flexibility in the guidelines. So I think changing out those, that pair of windows to a French door, that would be something that staff would recommend for approval.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, so are we, in with what we're approving or not approving right now, are we including French doors back here, or?
You can add that to the motion.
She said it would go through staff.
Yeah.
so we
That
don't
would
need-
to
go
make
through
life
staff,
easier.
so we
You
don't
don't
really need to.
Correct.
Correct.
You don't need to. If you want to be really
Okay, does
formal and
that-
add it, then you could.
That can be administratively approved?
Yes.
Okay.
I personally would like to maintain this structure, so I would like to make a motion to approve via staff recommendations, keeping that flat roof and all of that.
I second.
Any discussion? Not call for. Huh? Okay, I'll call for the roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For the motion.
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
and John White.
For the motion.
Okay. So the certificate.
Thank you, Melinda, for your questions on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
All right, we move on to our next applicant, and this is HPB 21011, 730 College Avenue. Final approval requested for a minor exterior alteration to the house at this address. The owner is Meg Investments of Polk LLC. The applicant, Mr. Greg Wilhelm, Meg Investments of Polk LLC. Are there any conflicts of interest on the committee?
Nope.
Hearing none, we will ask for staff report and recommendation.
Alrighty, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. So the subject property is an interior lot of record with a total area of 0.13 acres. On the property is a one-story bungalow house built circa 1922, which is a contributing building in the South Lake Morton Historic District. Architectural features of this house expressing the bungalow style include a cross-gabled roof, a gabled front porch supported by square brick columns and brick knee walls, exposed rafter tails, decorative gable beams, and 4/1 and 8/1 double-hung sash windows. Alterations include some replacement windows and a front porch enclosure consisting of siding and jalousie windows, which has been removed, restoring the front porch to an open appearance. So So upon removing the front porch enclosure, the upper porch beam spanning the two outer brick columns began sagging. To correct this, the applicant installed two tapered wood columns on top of the existing brick piers at the center of the porch as additional support for the beam. Craftsman-style tapered columns were chosen by the applicant as this type of column can be seen on numerous bungalow-styled homes in the South Lake Morton Historic District. The concrete caps of the brick piers no longer exist and were likely removed when the front porch enclosure was installed, probably in the 1940s or 1950s. The tops of these piers show only horizontal notches where the previous wall enclosure had been. So this request was evaluated using the standards and design guidelines referenced. And in evaluating the request, staff finds no physical or documentary evidence to support columns placed on top of the existing piers, or that square brick columns similar to the outer columns existed at the center of the porch. Historical bungalow houses often feature front porch piers without columns in the center of the porch for the simple purpose of providing an unobstructed view from the porch. While this request is inconsistent with standards number 2 and 3, staff finds that the addition of tapered columns is compatible with the architectural style of the house and consistent with the guidelines in terms of material. Due to the structural concerns of the porch beam sagging, which spans 22 feet, and combined with the determination that these columns may be removed without damage to the piers or beam, staff finds that the alteration does not adversely affect the architectural character or integrity of the subject house or surrounding historic district. While the tapered column capitals and bases are not correctly aligned according to historical porch entablatures, staff does not recommend correcting this, as the current appearance demonstrates that these columns are not original features and should not be construed as such. This appearance also provides a differentiation between historic and modern material. So as such, staff recommends final approval of the request as submitted.
Thank you, Emily. Mr. Wilhelm, are you here? Do you have anything to add? Okay. Do we have any comment from the public? Do we have any questions from the committee?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public portion. Ask again if there's any discussion by the committee, and if not, do I hear a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the application as submitted with staff recommendation that be so.
Do I hear?
Second.
Okay.
Let's make this one easy.
We'll take a roll call vote, please. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For,
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
John White.
For the motion.
Great, thank you, Mr. Wilhelm. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next application, which is HPB 21-012, 942 Success Avenue. Final approval requested for a bathroom addition and an accessory dwelling unit at this address. The owner is Ms. Carrie Murphy, the applicant Mr. Mark Switzer, Value Pro Remodeling. Okay, do we have any conflicts on the board, on the committee? Okay, staff review and recommendation?
Alrighty, yeah, thank you. Okay, so the subject property consists of one interior lot of record measuring 50 feet wide by 140 feet deep and consists of 0.16 acres. An improved alley exists to the rear of the property. This property contains a 1.5-story single-family house constructed circa 1925 in the frame vernacular architectural style, which is a contributing building in the South Lake Morton Historic District. The house features a gabled roof with sloped roof addition, a gabled stoop, lapped weatherboard siding, corner boards, and double hung sash windows with a 9-light prairie-style upper sash. Located in the rear yard at the southeast corner of the subject property is a 1-story detached garage with a gable roof. The garage is clad in wood lap siding and has an asbestos shingle roof. Built circa 1925, the garage is considered to be a contributing building in the district, but as a deteriorated accessory building, is able to be demolished per the design guidelines. The applicant's request is twofold. A bathroom addition, approximately 200 square feet in size, is proposed to be constructed on the north side elevation of the house behind the existing addition. The sloped roof line of the new addition will match and meet the roof line of the existing addition. And exterior materials for this addition will include Dutch lap siding with a profile and dimension matching the house, corner boards to match, Geldwin vinyl double hung sash and single sash windows with a 9-light prairie style top sash, pressure treated pine window trim and casing, and architectural shingles to match the existing roof of the house. The addition will be supported by footers and piers to match the home's crawl space height, which will be clad in brick, and hardy board matching the existing crawl space screening will be installed between the piers. 2 additional windows on the north side elevation will be removed due to this addition. And then secondly, following the demolition of the detached garage, an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, is proposed to be built in roughly the same location as the garage. The ADU will be a 1.5-story structure and is 483 square feet in size. The clipped side gable roof will be clad in architectural shingles matching the house, and Dutch lap siding and corner boards matching the home will also be used. The entrance door features a gabled overhang similar to the house, supported by wood brackets. Again, Geldwin vinyl prairie-style windows will be used, along with 2 solid 4-panel doors. And the site plan submitted for these requests shows that the addition to the house maintains the 7.7 feet building setback established by the existing building addition, which complies with the minimum interior side building setbacks required by the Land Development Code. The proposed setbacks shown on the site plan for the ADU are 2 feet 4 inches from the rear property line and 1 foot 8 inches from the interior side property line. And this request was evaluated using the specific standards and design guidelines referenced. So in evaluating the request with the standards, staff finds that both the addition to the house and ADU does not disturb the spatial relationships of the principal house, and the essential form and integrity of the existing house is maintained. New but similar materials will be used on both requests, which will be complementary in nature to the design of the house. In evaluating the request with the design guidelines, staff finds that the materials of the proposed addition and ADU reflect the materials of the house and are consistent with the guidelines. Staff also finds the design of both structures, trim, windows, door, and roof pitch and overhang to be consistent with the guidelines, as well as simple in design and subordinate to the subject house. The addition is appropriately located to the rear of the house, or excuse me, the side of the house, and the ADU is appropriately located to the rear of the lot with access from the alley. Consistent with the development pattern in the Lake Morton neighborhood, accessory dwellings are commonly found in both historic and contemporary form. However, the building setbacks for the addition to the house do meet the requirements of both the design guidelines and Land Development Code. However, for compliance with the guidelines in LDC, as well as for approval for compatibility review by the Planning and Zoning Board, the building setbacks for the ADU will need to be increased to a minimum of 5 feet from both the side and rear property lines. Additionally, the total mean height of the ADU is limited to 12.5 feet.
Okay, thank you, Emily. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I got one more slide.
Oh.
So as the request does meet the standards and design guidelines, staff recommends final approval of the request with the following conditions to be approved by staff prior to submission of the building permit. Number 1, all new windows must have exterior mounted prairie-style muntins or grids. Number 2, all new windows must be installed with a recess to provide a shadow line and not be installed flush with the wall plane. And number 3, the building setbacks of the ADU must be increased to at least 5 feet from the interior side and rear property lines, and the total mean height of the ADU is limited to 12.5 feet. Okay, I'm finished now. Thank you.
Mr. Switzer or Ms. Murphy, are you either here? Okay. Would you mind stepping up and let us know if you have any additional comments or?
Mark Switzer. No, we don't have any additional comments. I can certainly increase the setbacks to the 5 feet. That is not an issue, of course. And I'm already talking with the homeowner concerning the 12.5 median height on that roof. So I'm already working on getting the new plans changed to meet that requirement.
Okay, perfect. Any comments from the public? Any questions from committee members?
What is the ramification on your design for the 12.5-foot mean height for the roof? Do you lose the loft?
Yes, we're going to have to lose the loft. That's not going to be able to be put up there because my engineer says he doesn't think there's a way that we can do that and keep the 12.5 median roof. The lowest we can get it, I believe, is 13.5. So it's just...
13.5?
Yes, ma'am.
Emily, what's the guideline regarding that 12.5?
So that 12.5 is a land development code requirement. So you could potentially ask for a variance or apply for a variance to get the 13.5, but you would have to prove a hardship, not of your own making or the property owner's own making. So I don't know if that could be accomplished, but it could. I would advise that you maybe speak to one of our planners about the possibility of a variance.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, she's trying to make this a place for her father-in-law to be, or for her father to come down and live from up north somewhere, so he can have somewhere to, age in place and be right near to them, so that they don't have to put him into some kind of home or something.
Okay. If for some reason we approved it with staff recommendations and then he went for a variance and got it, is anything we do going to cause an issue?
No, because I don't think, so what is shown is the 13.5? What was?
Yes,
Let me-
it was, yes.
Was, okay. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to come back for further approval from the design review committee. You would just have to get that variance approved and get the compatibility review approved by the planning and zoning board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
So
thank
that's
you.
that's an LDC requirement?
Yeah.
For accessory dwelling units. Mhm.
So folks can't build a traditional garage apartment?
So if this were a garage apartment, he could go up to 24 feet, but he would have to maintain a garage underneath the ADU portion.
There you go.
okay.
Put a garage door in the living room.
Put a garage door on it, okay.
You got another 10 feet you can go up there. Is there alley access?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Well, what's the difference then? That's LDC question, never mind.
It is.
So we would not have to, okay,
We would not have to review it again. If
No.
he got a variance, he's good to go.
go try to get that a variance. Okay.
Do we have to review it again if he doesn't get the variance then? And he just had to bring it down to
we just
12.5
have
feet?
to,
Okay.
yeah, meet that 12.5. Yeah.
But the design, the overall look doesn't change. What is the current height, the way you have it in the plans?
The mean height is right around 13.5 feet. I think it starts over at 8 feet or 9 feet right to the left of that door, and then it goes up to, I believe it's 18 at the peak.
18 at the peak, okay.
Yes. So that's 9 and 18, that's 27, that's 14.
Yeah, if the variance weren't approved, I don't think the design would substantially change. It would just be the roof would come down.
It would just lower, yes.
So-
They may move the peak to the center if we lower it.
Okay.
So we might have to come back for that portion of it unless you will approve a staff recommendation approval on that.
Yeah, I think if that were to happen, I think, and the board or the committee approves this design, changing the roof pitch a little bit would still meet the intent of the approval.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
One thought to take back to your engineer, if the loft can be maintained or approved with that height, ask him to check the window size for minimum egress requirements per code
Yes.
out of a bedroom.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it complies right now,
Those are transom windows. Those are just enough to let in some light.
and that won't work.
Okay.
So,
It was open to the downstairs, so
Yeah.
they came up the stairs and the entire side, there was no walls. It was just, it's all open.
yeah.
It's, when you turn that to the gable, is there
The left elevation?
So the front, yeah.
No?
No, there were no windows on the left or the right elevations.
You just threw a wrench in this.
Wow,
Well, because,
It's not
I mean,
up to
don't,
that's,
That's not a
That's
problem.
that's
not our
up for his
issue.
designer to resolve and,
Yeah.
and work out with the, I'm just, when they come for permit, that might be flagged, that's all.
This one doesn't
Yeah.
go
Okay.
under our purview.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendations.
Do I hear a second?
second.
What,
Discussion?
what
You
about
get
the,
discussion.
what about the 12.5 bit?
I thought,
She just said if he got a variance, he would not have to come back here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think either way, it would not have to come back.
Okay.
Just have to keep them,
Because that's part of her recommendations.
yes. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion is concluded. We'll take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For,
Jeremy Moses,
for the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
and John White.
For the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You too. All right, we move on to HPV 21-013, 960 South Tennessee Avenue. Final approval requested for minor exterior alterations to the house at this address. Owner is REM Group Venture LLC, the applicant McDonough Construction LLC. Are there any conflicts on the committee? John, you have a conflict? No, I've done that too.
Just a technical
I
issue.
beat you to it, I did that early on.
Yeah, my unit went to
Technical
sleep.
difficulties. Okay, then Emily, if you would present your.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the subject property is an interior lot of record with a total area of 0.16 acres. On the property is a one-story masonry vernacular house built circa 1953, which is a non-contributing building in the South Lake Morton Historic District. The house features a hipped roof and carport and block walls and features some incompatible replacement windows. The concrete block front stoop has a low-sloped flat roof supported by metal columns with a scrollwork design. The floor of the stoop is angled and asymmetrical in shape and is covered in terracotta-colored tile. 3 steps lead from the stoop down to grade. The rear elevation features 3 uniformly sized window openings and 1 smaller window opening that's on the actual rear of the house that's not in this picture, but you'll see it on the elevation drawing. The request proposes to reconfigure the front stoop with a rectangular-shaped floor and steps and install 1 new rectangular wooden column to support the flat roof. On the rear elevation, the smaller window opening and 2 of the uniformly sized window openings will be enclosed with concrete block and painted to match the existing exterior wall of the house. The middle window opening will be converted to a doorway and a single French door will be installed, as well as a small concrete stoop with a metal handrail. And this request was evaluated using the standards and design guidelines referenced. So while this house was categorized as a non-contributing building at the time of the Historic District Survey in 1984, as the date of its construction was not within the district's period of significance, which is 1904 to 1942, this house is now beyond the 50-year baseline criteria for historic designation. As such, this house would likely be included as a contributing structure in any resurvey of the district, as it retains much of its architectural integrity as a house of the mid-century modern masonry vernacular architectural style. It is staff's opinion that the metal scrollwork columns on the front stoop of the subject house contribute to its architectural integrity, and at a minimum, the column at the corner of the stoop should be retained. However, reconfiguring the shape of the stoop and installing new flooring does not adversely affect the character of the house or the district. Additionally, as the requested window enclosures and window-to-door conversion is located on the rear elevation of the house, staff finds this alteration to be compatible with the intent of the design guidelines and standards.
I apologize.
That's fine.
supposed to be on silent.
So staff recommends approval of the request with the condition that the metal scroll work column at the corner of the stoop is maintained. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Emily. Mr. McDonough, do you have anything you would like to say? Good morning.
I didn't have anything to say, except I believe that I don't believe, the windows on each side of those doors are remaining. They're to be replaced. Part of the application was asking for direction on what window you tell me to put there, that's what we're putting there.
Oh, so I'm sorry, say that again. The two
So
windows.
there's 4 windows on the part that we're looking at of the home. There's 3 that you can see, and there's one on the side to the right, if you're looking at that picture, if we were standing in the yard. The middle window is to become a French door, full light French door, or grid, whatever you tell me to do. And each window on each side of that door is remaining.
Oh,
We just wanted to replace them with new and to be historically accurate.
okay. I got some different information, or I misinterpreted it.
Yeah,
I
the one on the left
apologize.
is correct, that gets
Okay.
closed in.
Okay.
We wouldn't want to close that in, we want to keep all the natural light that we can.
Okay, so the two windows on either side of the new doorway would be what kind of?
Still windows.
Just,
I'd like to replace them because they're ugly and they're very inefficient, so I'd like to put nice new ones in there for the new owner.
ugly is not in design guidelines. But yeah, if you wanted to replace them with a colonial style window, like what's there,
Right.
as you know, we do require the exterior muntins.
Exterior grids,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that would be able to be administratively approved.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
That's
So,
it.
so I guess the
Just
deal
trying to make it
is
look
you're.
better.
Yeah.
Sean,
Thank you
can
for the
live with
clarification.
scrolled,
Yes, sure.
okay, okay. Any input from the public? Questions or concerns?
Just acknowledge a fellow mid-century homeowner,
There you go.
very similar, same
And then the
columns.
mother-in-law suite.
Windows, we maintained very similar. I see many similarities in your house, including the little breezeway feature.
Beautiful hardwood floors. There's a great curved wall in the inside of this house. I don't know how to describe it off. I guess it would be we're looking at that stone column. So, and you're looking at that red door in the carport area. That's the kitchen door. And if you were to come through that door and take a left, that wall is a huge curved concrete block wall with stucco on both sides. It's beautiful. And there's an inside laundry room from the carport. It's really neat. And we're saving several of those cool features in the house where the phone would sit, in the hallway.
Yeah,
I don't know, what is that called?
Niche.
Just a phone niche. And then also some of the built-ins in the house that were popular in the 50s, and we're retaining those.
So, my understanding is this porch is just being expanded back? Is it being expanded out or just?
Kind of that left, as we're facing that picture, the left corner is going to come to you a little bit to square it off, so it's not a funky rectangle that you end up falling off of.
The plan on the proposed.
Yeah.
Just trying to straighten it up and give a little bit better curve
Clear
appeal
that
to it.
Oh, okay. I know, it's like,
Existing proposed.
gotcha, okay, I see what you. Okay, now that, oh wait, okay.
Okay,
It's not,
I'm here now.
okay.
I presume whoever added the stone to the carport columns didn't come to the preservation board for that.
No, they didn't.
No,
Guessing not.
Yeah, we would encourage
They didn't
removal of.
they didn't come for anything. We've had to get quite a few things straightened out.
Okay, but that's kind of.
so is that roof line changing at all with the porch?
Just, it is coming out.
It is coming
also
out
with
as
the
well,
floor.
okay.
It's squaring off with the floor, if you will.
Yeah, okay.
There's just a very minimum overhang there. You couldn't get 2 people up on that, so
Right.
only one Amazon delivery guy at a time.
Okay, any other questions from the committee?
No.
So,
Matter of fact, I think, off the cuff here, we'd probably be retaining both of those, columns. Why wouldn't we? If you're wanting the one on the corner, we might as well keep the one in the, on the right side too. That way we don't have to try to come up with some material that would work.
yeah,
Right, yeah, we'll just stick with those. It'd be great.
that makes sense. Alrighty, close the public portion, and committee members, if you have any other discussion. And if not, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve per staff guidelines and recommendations.
Do I hear a second?
second,
All right, roll call vote for Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For,
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion?
John White.
For the motion.
And you're approved. Thank you very much, Mr. McDonough.
Thank you.
All right, next up is HPB 21-014, South Lincoln Avenue. Final approval requested for installed replacement windows on the house at this address. Owner, Mr. Brad Rowland, applicant, Mr. Brad Rowland. Anybody on the committee have any conflict of interest? Okay. Emily?
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, the subject property is a corner lot of record in the Dixieland Historic District that is 0.17 acres in total size. And the property contains a one-story, single-family house built circa 1924, which was classified as a contributing building in the Dixieland Historic District at the time of the 1993 Historic District Survey. The Mediterranean Revival House features gabled, shed, and flat with parapet roofs and stucco cladding. At the time of the survey, metal sash windows were present. Several alterations have taken place without building permits since at least May of 2011, including the installation of replacement windows, the removal of window trim and casing, and the removal of roof ventilation covers. Several window openings were resized and made smaller than the original window openings, with obvious stucco patching surrounding these. It is the professional opinion of staff that this house no longer retains architectural integrity due to these insensitive alterations, and a resurvey of the Dixieland Historic District would likely find that this house no longer contributes to the historic character of the district. From researching Google Street View imagery, the windows in the subject house were replaced between May of 2011 and January of 2019. According to the Polk County property appraiser records during this time, this property went into foreclosure and was sold 3 times between April 2015 and October of 2018. The applicant purchased the property in July of 2019 after the replacement windows had likely been installed and also, were installed without a building permit. In October 2020, city staff received a Citizens Action Center complaint regarding replacement windows with sandwiched muntins that were not in compliance with our old residential historic district design guidelines and current guidelines, and subsequently a code violation was issued for this property. So the request was evaluated using the standards and design guidelines referenced. And typically, window replacement requires only staff level review and approval, as you know, as long as the replacement window complies with the design guidelines. Since the request is not consistent with the guidelines regarding exterior muntin requirements, this request was referred to the DRC for review. Original windows are character-defining features of a historic building, and installation of replacement windows can adversely affect the architectural integrity of the building. However, due to the non-contributing status of this house as determined by staff, due to several insensitive alterations, staff finds that the request does not adversely affect the character of the Dixieland Historic District. And additionally, while this request does not comply with the guidelines, the request is also not of the applicant's making, which has been a consideration of the DRC in past decisions regarding incompatible replacement windows. Furthermore, this request is in keeping with the practice of the DRC and staff to lend flexibility in interpreting the design guidelines for non-contributing properties. So as such, staff recommends final approval of the request as submitted.
Thank you, Emily. Mr. Rowland? Care to add anything to that?
No, I'd just like to say thanks to the committee for the efforts, and definitely thanks to Emily for her guidance on the situation. She mentioned I purchased the property in July of 2019. It's essentially the exact same now as it was when I purchased it, and didn't find out about, this issue until last October. So that's about it.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Any questions from the committee? Okay. If not, then I'll close the public portion of this meeting or this review and go to the committee and ask again if you have any discussion, and if not, do I hear a motion?
Question, you purchased the property when?
July of 2019.
Okay, so the staff received the complaint regarding the windows in October of 2020.
Yes.
Like, that's,
That was the
Why-
complaint, but yeah, why the delay?
why that delay?
Without going into a lot of detail, we received about 40 complaints about these sandwich window muntins throughout a lot of our districts. Yes, and I'll bring that letter up. Jeremy, remind me at the end of our meeting. I can't go into further detail about how those originated, but it's been a problem. And so several code enforcement cases have actually been opened because windows that may have been installed 10 or 15 years ago are now being complained about, which I'm not saying, I want citizens to file complaints. We want to make sure there's eyes on the historic district. But it just seems like there was a rash all at once.
For this particular property?
Well, just at the same time.
Several properties in the neighborhood.
Yeah, basically between, I would say September of 2020 and November of 2020, there was several complaints about window muntins in the historic districts. Not just of this property, several.
Not just this property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, just all of a sudden everybody's going, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, no.
You just changed out windows. I'm not saying you did, I'm just saying, okay.
Right.
Sounds like there's a new Dixieland
I
historic.
mean, I know,
Yes, it does. And you did not
No.
change these windows out?
Given the fact that this has been so changed and has no historic value to the district, I think that's significant. So do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve per staff guidelines.
Second the motion.
All right, any discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For,
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
John White.
For the motion.
And you are approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'll be in touch with you so that we can resolve the code enforcement issue.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Someone's patrolling the neighborhood.
Emily, is that the reason for this letter?
Yes, I was going to bring that up at the end of our
Okay.
DRC agenda.
Okay,
And please remind me if I forget.
will do. Moving on, we will review HPB 21-017, 1215 King Avenue. Final approval requested for exterior alterations to the house at this address. Owner applicant, Mr. Jason Fabsick. Any conflicts from committee members? If not, Emily, would you give us your review and recommendation?
Okay, so the subject property consists of two platted lots which measure 100 feet wide and 119.5 feet deep and consist of 0.27 acres in total size. And on the property is a one-story, single-family house built circa 1922 in the Craftsman bungalow style, which is a contributing building in the Dixieland Historic District. Architectural features expressing the bungalow style include a double front gabled roof and full-width front porch, supported by round columns on brick plinths. Two shorter brick plinths without columns also exist at the center of the porch. The home also features novelty pine siding, corner boards, knee brackets, and vents in the gables, and exposed rafter tails. The applicant proposes to reopen the front porch by removing the aluminum windows and door installed in this area. The existing knee wall, columns, and plinths will remain intact. Due to termite damage, the applicant also proposes to cover all existing double OG novelty siding with a 6-inch exposure hardy board siding. And that is for the entire house, not just the front porch. A small addition on the north elevation of the home that currently has a screened-in clearstory is proposed to be framed in and a fixed window installed on the north elevation of this addition in similar size to the screened area. And finally, the window and door openings in the utility room addition on the rear elevation of the house are proposed to be enclosed with framing and siding matching the house in order to create a master bedroom, bathroom, closet area. One fixed glass window will be installed in the west facade of this addition, which is the rear elevation. And this request was evaluated using the specific standards and design guidelines referenced here. In evaluating the request with the standards and guidelines, staff made the following findings. Number one, given that all the existing historic pine novelty siding features a double OG profile, which cannot be recreated currently with fiber cement or hardy material, staff finds that this change is inconsistent with the standards and design guidelines, as the 6-inch exposure hardy board will not recreate the appearance of the original siding. Number two, the requested alterations to the north and west elevation building additions with regard to screen and window door removal and window replacement meets the intent of the standards and the design guidelines. And number three, the requested reopening of the enclosed front porch is consistent with our standards and guidelines.
Thank you, Emily. Mr. Fabsick?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry?
I should finish the staff
Oh,
recommendation.
I thought you did. I'm sorry.
I kind of repeat myself, but it's fine. So the staff recommendation is final approval of the request with the condition to retain the existing novelty signing.
Got you. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right.
Too quickly. Your significant pause threw me. Okay. Mr. Fabsick? You'd like to comment?
Just with the extent of the termite damage on the north side of the house, it's basically ripping that whole side off and replacing all of that. That's kind of why I wanted to go with a more durable product. And there are several houses on our street that have done the hardy siding. That's why I was trying to go with that approach, more longer lasting. It's my home. Hope to be there a while. Another almost 100 years.
Any questions from the committee?
Double OG siding versus, what exactly?
It's basically a smaller, like.
A little scallop.
It looks like a double drop.
I
Double drop
should
in 6
have
inches.
provided a picture of that for your knowledge.
If you go to the front picture, the actual picture, you can kind of see the detail. It looks like two pieces of board, but in actuality, it's a 6-inch wide piece of pine.
And actually, that novelty siding is the same width as what you want to replace by. It just doesn't have that profile. Yeah.
And it's not available with that detail?
Not in hardy board or fiber cement. If it were, if you can find it, then that would be something that staff could recommend approval for. That's mainly the sticking point, is just that profile can't be recreated.
And you're talking basically one whole side of the house would have to be?
The north side, when you're looking at that picture, the right side has quite a bit of rot and termite damage in it.
Is there enough potentially on the back that can be removed, replaced on the side, and do the hardy board on the back?
Probably not enough.
That would help maintain the historic nature of this particular look. Or can this be purchased at, I'm assuming is it cedar, pine, whatever?
Yeah.
Can it be purchased?
It can still be purchased. I believe it's available at Joyner Lumber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so if it's readily available,
Then, yeah.
with understanding about the durability issues, but it lasts pretty long time.
Right, it's lasted 100 years already, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's done pretty well.
And it would just, to do just the flat lapped hardy board, it would just change the profile.
Yeah, the whole profile.
Yeah. of
From
that
cost
wall.
perspective, I mean, replacing one side with the OG board compared to redoing your entire house in hardy board, you would think it.
Right. And I agree with Melinda's, suggestion. If enough could be salvaged from the rear elevation and then replace the rear elevation with the hardy board, would be a good
option.
compromise, yeah.
Is that helpful?
Somewhat, yes. I did have one other concern, just because it has those aluminum awnings. I plan on removing those. Am I going to have any issues?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to remove
You
it.
only have one issue.
Someone will buy it from you, I'm sure.
And then, just because of the earlier case, if I have any potential sagging on that huge span across the front porch, because it's probably like 22 feet, if I needed to have pillars or columns put in, the current columns on the corners are concrete poured, like round cylinders.
They're reinforced concrete pipe.
Yeah. Aesthetically, would I need to try to come back with something like that in the middle for support, or do I need to look into seeing about reinforcing the entire beam across?
I would say come back to me
Okay.
when you do
If that
some
is-
exploratory demo, and and we'll talk about it then, yeah.
In looking at the proposed front elevation, the columns are drawn differently
Yes.
than the existing.
I'm not changing those.
But that's, there in reality, the existing will remain.
Yes.
It also, the proposed front elevation does not include the front brackets, if you will. And I presume those will all be retained.
Yes, correct. Yeah. All of the gable brackets will be retained, all of the, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Columns will remain round. Brackets,
Yes.
the four brackets in the front will remain, plus the ones on the secondary, there's
By the
another
venting,
two.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask about the bedroom? You're getting rid of all those windows, and it looked like the proposed drawing didn't have any type of windows at all on that whole wall after that.
On the rear and
Yeah, on the rear, yes,
on the
sir.
rear of the side, yeah. It's kind of weird because that is a bathroom, a functioning bathroom, and it has windows all the way around currently. That is currently a bathroom on our house.
So your comment about windows on egress issues?
That was from a second floor.
Oh, second floor, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Well, you need them on the ground floor too.
Yeah, any bedroom would need them.
It doesn't show on the plan, but the bedroom, the master next to that does have quite a few windows on that
Oh, okay.
left elevation.
Okay.
All right.
There are quite a few windows on that side.
I don't think I have a picture of that.
Yeah, this is just a bathroom addition.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, we'll close the public portion, bring it to the committee. Anything further? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
I move to approve with the staff recommendation.
Is there a second?
We're doing a lot of motioning today.
I think Melinda seconded. Did you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Then we'll take a roll call vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion.
Landis Fleming,
For,
Jeremy Moses,
For the motion.
Melinda Rinker,
For the motion.
John White,
For the motion.
and you are approved.
And
Thank
may
you.
we take a break before we get to this next one?
Oh,
Yeah, we
Are
can
you
take
okay
a
with
short
that?
recess to 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay,
5 minutes.
you're recessed for 5 minutes. We will meet back at
It's a good idea.
10:26.
I know, it's like,
A little coffee only so long.
Dan actually wanted it, but he made Melinda ask.
Jeremy, you have to take one.
I know. Yeah, please.
thank God, Tim.
to our next, yes, and I think final, HPB 21-012, 942 Success Avenue. Oh, no.
No,
Sorry, I
015.
didn't turn the page. Let's try this again. Working off of two different lists, so forgive me. Okay. HPB 21-015, 721 and 725 East Orange Street. Demolition approval requested for 2 existing buildings on the subject properties, and conceptual approval requested for a 32-unit apartment complex at this address, consisting of 5 3-story buildings. Owner 725 East Orange LLC, applicant the Lunds Group. Do we have any conflicts of interest?
Yes. I am the neighbor to the south.
Okay.
I am fully retired now from the Lunds Group, so I don't believe I don't have a conflict of interest.
I would determine that you do not have a conflict.
Okay. In Jared's absence, Emily is the ruling. What about Melinda?
All those questions.
It's not usually,
Yeah.
am I wrong, it's not usually a conflict of interest if somebody simply resides in the area. They
Right.
have to have a connection with the business or the,
Exactly, as long as you don't have a fiduciary or a financial, you're not getting a kickback, or, you know, there's no financial gains, or,
No, not unless they would like to give.
yeah. I mean, that's typically.
you have an interest. You have an interest in it, as we all do.
I have an interest
Because you're
as a neighbor, yes.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so-
I would also say that if you think there's a perceived conflict, you can still participate in the discussion, but recuse
just
yourself
not
from the
vote.
vote.
Okay.
So when it comes to that, you may abstain if you don't feel that you can be.
Okay.
Yeah, if you feel you can't be unbiased, then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Having done that. Emily?
All righty, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so the subject property consists of 5 lots of record and a portion of a 6th lot with a total size of 0.93 acres. And 2 structures exist on the subject property, the first of which is 721 East Orange Street, and it was historically addressed as 711 East Orange Street. This property contains a 1-story, single-family house built circa 1920 in the bungalow architectural style, which is a contributing building in the East Lake Morton Historic District. The bungalow styling of this house is expressed by a gable front roof, a symmetrical facade, triangular knee braces in the gable ends, and an integrated front porch with 3 segmental arched bays supported by square columns. Both a triangular gable vent and a 3-bay gable vent exist. The house also has wood drop siding, corner boards, 2 chimneys, and double hung sash windows with a 1/1 light configuration. The house also features 2 separate doors, which reflect its conversion from a 1-family house to a duplex over its history. City records show that this house had up to 4 dwelling units in its most recent use, but has been unoccupied in some time. And this is just a further picture of the side and rear, I believe, of the structure. So the second structure is 725 East Orange Street, and this property contains a 2-story single-family house built circa 1925 in the frame vernacular architectural style, and which is contributing to the East Lake Morton Historic District. Notable architectural features include a hip roof, an enclosed porch on the 2nd story with a gable roofline, likely added sometime after the house was built, exposed rafter tails, and a wraparound front porch on the ground floor that has been partially enclosed. The front porch is supported by tapered columns on brick plinths, and fenestration consists of double hung sash windows in 1/1, 3/1, and 2/2 light configurations, plus jalousie windows. Alterations include the porch enclosures and asbestos siding. City records show that this house had up to 8 dwelling units and has been used as a multifamily structure for some time. And just going through some photos again of this structure. Okay. So the current property owner purchased the subject property in October 2020. Both structures on the property have been poorly maintained over the past 30 years, with only minimal maintenance performed over this time. According to structural assessment performed by the applicant, both buildings are in severe disrepair and are uninhabitable. A repair proposal from Sherritt Construction for the building at 721 East Orange Street was estimated at $391,200, and the proposal to repair 725 East Orange Street was estimated at $719,774. Demolition for both structures is estimated at a total cost of $26,000. According to the Polk County Property Assessor, the subject properties have a just market value assessed at $172,731. The applicant has determined that the deteriorated structural condition and estimated cost to restore the buildings are evidence of the infeasibility to reasonably repair these buildings, and therefore request approval for their demolition. And if the request for demolition is approved, the applicant proposes to build 5 3-story multifamily buildings on the subject property, which will have a total of 32 dwelling units and integrated parking. So the new buildings will reflect a neo-traditional appearance with hipped roofs, front porches with tapered columns and decorative arched beams, second-story balconies with arched bays, windows with a 6-light colonial upper sash, doors in both a quarter light and half light style, and exterior cladding in alternating lap and board and batten siding styles. Generally, the buildings will line East Orange Street and South Lake Avenue and the western property line, with building setbacks close to those property lines. And this is just another view of rendering showing from across Orange Street. So materials for the new buildings include a concrete slab-on-grade foundation and frame construction, hardy panel lap siding and hardy board vertical panel cladding, hardy board trim and casing, vinyl windows with exterior applied colonial muntins on the top sash only, masonite doors with fixed glass, and architectural shingles on the 7/12 pitch roof. And materials were not yet specified for the porch and balcony elements yet. And this looks terrible on the screen, but this is the exterior paint palette proposed for the project, which includes basically a darker and lighter green, and then like a creamy off-white. The site plan for the project indicates a parking lot on the interior of the lot containing 38 parking spaces and 2 bays for dumpsters and their enclosures. 9 parallel parking spaces on East Orange Street are also proposed. Building setbacks vary throughout the site and consist of between 11.36 feet and 23.62 feet from the East Orange Street or north property line, between 7.37 feet and 10.94 feet from the South Lake Avenue or east property line, between 7.53 feet and 13.4 feet from the interior side or the west property line, and then 38.14 feet from the rear or south property line. And the parking lot edge of pavement is an average of 6.4 feet from the adjacent property to the south, with the dumpster enclosure being about 5.5 feet away from the adjacent property line. So again, these are just further renderings that were submitted by the applicant for your viewing. And this view, I believe, shows from the South Lake Avenue into the entrance of the parking lot. So this request was evaluated using the specific standards and design guidelines referenced. And regarding the considerations for demolition, the subject buildings are contributing buildings in the East Lake Morton Historic District, as they represent the bungalow and frame vernacular architectural styles were built during the district's period of significance and for their association with the World War I and Florida land boom historic contexts in Lakeland. The architectural styling and details of both buildings are relatively common and simple. Aside from their connection to statewide historical contexts, the houses have no known associations with persons or events of special significance in Lakeland's history. While both houses retain architectural integrity, this quality has been diminished somewhat for the house at 725 East Orange Street due to the front porch enclosures and asbestos siding. Staff finds that neither building would be eligible for individual listing on the National Register of Historic Places based on its architectural or historic merits, but continue to contribute to the architectural history of the East Lake Thornton Historic District. And while the historic preservation standards are silent on financial and economic reasons for rehabilitating or demolishing a historic building, the committee has considered these as supplementary facts for informing their decision with respect to demolition in the past. Additionally, the intent of the standards states that the demolition of quote-unquote sound historic structures will be discouraged. The applicant's assessment suggests that both buildings are not sound structures and have been compromised by deferred maintenance and structural deficiencies that would preclude a reasonable effort and expense to repair. In addition, the Garden District SBI, in which these buildings are located, is a designated redevelopment area whose intent is to provide an incentive for quality infill development and redevelopment, reduce regulatory impediments, and ensure architectural compatibility of new construction. Given these facts and the proposal for residential infill redevelopment, staff finds the request for demolition meets the intent of the historic preservation standards, design guidelines, and Garden District SPI ordinance. However, staff does recommend that the owner and/or applicant offer both buildings for architectural salvage for a minimum of 30 days or perform deconstruction itself in order to salvage any intact architectural elements that are able to be reused. Finally, staff finds that the proposed multifamily apartment proposal meets the intent of the standards and guidelines in terms of scale, massing, materials, building height, orientation, and setbacks, and overall neo-traditional design. As shown on the site plan, the buildings feature recesses and projections that avoid a monolithic horizontal plane and is compatible with adjacent development. However, as this project has not received approval by the city's development review team, conceptual approval of the proposed building design and site plan is recommended at this time, with final review and approval by the design review committee to occur once approval has been granted by the city's DRT, as their comments may affect architectural and site design. So finally, staff recommends approval of the requested demolition after 30 days, during which time the buildings will be reasonably offered for architectural salvage or deconstruction to retrieve building materials and elements that may be reused. And staff also recommends conceptual approval for the proposed new multifamily apartment buildings with the following conditions. Number one, sidewalk connection should be added from porches to the public sidewalks along both East Orange Street and North Lake Avenue. Number two, all foundations of street-facing buildings must be raised to a finished floor height of 21 inches above grade. However, porches may have a slightly lower finished floor height. Number three, ensure that window casing has a drip cap, visible sill, an apron, and windows have a recessed appearance to provide a shadow line within the wall plane. Number four, verification of lap siding exposure is needed. Number five, dumpster placement is not ideal due to potential adverse effect to the adjacent single-family residence to the south. Applicant is encouraged to consider alternative solutions or location for the trash disposal. And number six, clarification is needed on the areas indicated as stormwater on the site plan, including whether or not these areas will hold standing water in normal conditions and their depth. A front yard appearance is desired along East Orange Street. So again, final approval of this request will require another review cycle before the design review committee. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And Mr. Boyington, are you representing the team?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to comment, add anything?
Yes.
I knew you would.
What kind of a question is that?
You want to start?
It's like asking you, but
You want to start the timer now?
no. Keep it brief, please.
Yes, ma'am. You've been here a while, and it's been a very long day, and you've done a lot of good work today. I do want to introduce my project manager, Brittany Previtt, and the owner, Jason Lewis. Okay.
And you're gonna see you're gonna wrestle with this in different ways in other places, because a lot of people have discovered Lakeland, okay? That's good, but change comes. So I'm gonna comment on a couple of things. One, I thank the staff for their recommendation, because I know this is a tough one, okay? I know this is a tough one. Those buildings are actually worse, the house is worse than you see them. You actually walk in and there's no floor in significant parts of the building. You just walk in and, where's the floor? Okay, there isn't a floor. I mean, not even, it's been uninhabited for years. The other one has been used as a somewhat derelict apartment building. Mr. Lewis is originally from the Orlando area. He lives in Southern California, but he has been attracted, like others, to Lakeland. Most of the people are building big apartment complexes because that's where the money is at. Mr. Lewis actually comes from renovating houses and fixing them in Southern California and it's in Florida. So he really has a lot of hands-on experience, literally hands-on experience fixing buildings. So he doesn't walk away from a tough building. He's also doing something that's interesting as an urban planner. There's a thing called the missing middle, okay? People build single-family houses, which you're getting infill, and they build 200, 300 apartments. But what the neighborhoods used to have is these little apartment building complexes that really fitted the character, and you will find some in great historic neighborhoods like the Old Northeast in St. Petersburg. You'll go along, it's a beautiful neighborhood, very expensive now, and you'll see a little apartment building that has 20 units in it. People don't build these anymore because the brain damage for building that is like building 300, but the reward is not as big. But you've got lots of lots like this. He's decided to take this against my advice, okay? In fact, we could put more units on here. No, I don't want to put more units. I want a certain quality. And I know he's been to you. This is his second project. You've seen his Lemon Street project. One of the problems, too, is because you don't have a lot of units, your construction cost per unit goes up, okay? And contractors, I want to do this, but you don't get this big bids. So I just say that in consideration because it's going to be something you're going to wrestle with, I think, in the future. And this is his second project. He may do the two at the same time to try to get a contractor interested at scale with better site management, Belinda. So I really say that, and he's looking at other sites. So this is not the last time you're going to see Mr. Lewis, okay? And I think he's the kind of person you want that just doesn't absolutely maximize out the site, like which I willingly help other developers do, okay? I'm really good. Oh, we could get more in there. But he wants a certain quality, and he's going to own it. He's not flipping it. This is stuff he's building for his lifetime portfolio. So I give you that thing. I will comment on, now briefly, really comment real quickly on the couple of conditions. No problem with the month, okay? No problem with the sidewalk connections. I have a comment on the 21 inches, and we keep talking about that, and we show it dead at grade. Now, we might go and do a few. 21 inches means 21 feet of handicap ramp, okay? And we are, and that's if you put a rail on it, which really is ugly. It's more if you try to do it as a 5% gradient and not. And we are governed as an apartment by the Fair Housing Code, absolutely have to provide accessibility. And generally, it's not considered good form to be at a back door thing. So that if your guest, and every unit here, ground floor unit, has two ways in. One from the parking lot side and one from the street where we expect the guest to approach it. So I'm going to say we're going to come back on that. Certainly, I'm going to argue vehemently against 21 inches and probably significantly less. Just warning, heads up, okay? No problem with the window deal, no problem with the lap soldier. The dumpster thing is a pain. And if you, by the way, would say to Public Works, you need to think different. Do you remember when they tried to close the alleys and dumpster and trash access basically came off in a lot of the neighborhood, in the historic neighborhoods? I know John remembers some of this.
Ours is alley, but
Yeah. So the trucks and the radiuses, and they won't back up, is just fundamentally difficult to accommodate in these things. And this, leads where these awkward things where the real place you want to put the dumpster is right on the street, because that's what the Public Works, and Public Works don't care, okay? So it would be useful if you'd say something to Public Works, because I guarantee you that the DRT meeting will be 75% about the dumpster, okay? All right, so if you start saying, you guys have got, on Public Works, have got to start thinking different, okay? Because there's only so many options a private developer has, okay? So it's a plea for your advocacy. Stormwater, they're labeled on things. So this is another thing that's evolving, is I labeled them rain gardens, which is perhaps aspirational. Okay?
It sounds good.
Well, it actually is a thing. We're working on a project in Gainesville, and the renovation has beautiful designed rain gardens. It's a big deal in Winter Haven, okay, as a lakes mitigation to protect the lake water. And it doesn't mean a ditch, okay? It means an actively cultivated garden that happens to be partially wet, okay? And it's really hard for Swift Mud to wrap their head around it too, okay? But it's a thing coming, and it's not a historic thing, but it's an environmentally responsible. The alternative is a really nasty deep pit with a thing, or a big subterranean chamber, which is extremely expensive and really doesn't provide the same quality opportunities. So we're going to develop that idea, and we won't really know if that works until we do our geotechnical borings and know what our porosity of the soil is. But I've seen it in projects in Tampa, Orlando. It's a thing coming, so think about that in the future. We're discussing that on the Lemon Street project too. And by the way, my house, which many of you know, I have a swale there in front of the garden. That is actually my stormwater facility. And for a few hours in a rainstorm, it fills up with water in that grass. And so you look and it does actually dip off of my sidewalk. So it's not as bad sometimes as it sounds, but mine's not really a rain garden. It's something else, my garden, as some of you know. So anyway, that's my comments. We stand for questions. Brittany, Jason, anything that messed up or you want to discuss?
Is there any public comment?
So that's.
Okay, how about questions from the committee?
I have thoughts, but
That's why we needed that break.
so I don't know whether it should be now or in the committee portion, but as
If you want feedback from him, then you need to do it now.
okay.
So this empty white space down at the bottom is where my house is.
Neighbor.
Yes, what?
It's a neighbor, right?
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
That's my house.
Who lives there?
I live in that empty white space. That triangular portion is actually our fence, which we went around a tree to put the fence in. Obviously, I have a fence going straight over and straight down. However, you've got 6 foot some inches in these, 9 parking spots or whatever, on that south end.
Yes, ma'am.
My bedroom
Yes, ma'am.
is right there. Actually, I've got 2 bedrooms and my bathroom right there, and we do have just a short 4-foot picket fence. Is it possible to either do a back-in parking in that section only?
You say what, excuse me?
A back-in only parking? Or work together to get a 6-foot fence right there? Because parking coming in would be shining lights. We have this issue when there are events.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
I think the back-end parking is probably impractically getting enforced. What I think what we need to do is consider enhanced delineation in both landscape and maybe more a taller fence or something.
Perfect.
Getting a thumbs up. So
Okay.
yes, we would welcome improvement in that area.
Okay.
And that's regardless of whether you were on this board or not. I think that is absolutely a good thought for any who was living here. So yes,
Enhanced buffer.
I think that's good behavior. So thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, the bedroom windows, whatever. So dumpster, we're actually, my husband and I went over this with a fine-tooth comb. That is where the dumpsters currently are, maybe a little bit further out from the fence, but we are actually fine with this dumpster placement. It keeps it back away from right next to our bedroom window. As long as the dumpster emptying does not happen at 6 a.m. If it happens after 8 a.m., because this is more commercial, they usually do the earlier dumping. So that will need to be addressed.
That's probably solid waste.
Yeah, and so
That's more DRT, I realize
but
that.
make a note that timing as well as space is an issue. And like I said, if y'all say, I'd really like to say, for you to come out of this and say, DRT and Public Works, you need to work on a better solution for these historic neighborhoods. I'd like to hear a resolution here.
Yeah.
And I can convey that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there fencing, okay, we have fencing over and over, but then beyond where the parking lot ends, we also own that next property, which is our Airbnb. Are you putting fencing? I can't tell from.
I expect so. I don't expect we
Well, doesn't the LDC require fencing regardless? I think when they go to DRC.
I believe it is a monthly requirement.
They love fences, so they're gonna call for it.
Yeah,
We've got fences.
yeah, that is,
I expect we will be fencing all of that
Yeah.
perimeter.
Let's see.
On the south side, basically that.
yeah.
We'll probably connect back up with our southmost building. We'll probably basically kind of zigzag until we connect to our southmost building.
So that what? I missed what you were.
Let me see, hang on.
Yeah.
Still, how do we do this? Oh, we can, here. Sure. It's the top button.
But you have to go, well, do y'all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, this is cool. Anyway, yes, I think we would be coming down, around, and across, and probably back up to this point with the fencing. Oh, that's cool.
Toys.
New toys.
Let's see. The Orange Street parking, I notice in the photos, you have the lines for parking. However, you do not have a line on the actual Orange Street length of that. And I noticed an issue over at the Ruthven building on Lime that people park too far out. So that would be another,
Well, we're gonna have to, that is yet to be determined with DRT.
yes.
We don't require to have those parking spaces, and in fact, there's no parking there now.
I know.
So if we do this, and I'm not saying, we would actually have to reconstruct the curb along there, and it's not currently budgeted, so we might not do it, okay? But we were thinking about that for guest parking, okay? though there is the parking for the park right across the street, okay? So we're not sure that we'll do that. If we were doing this, we actually have to move the curb of the sidewalk to create that parallel parking as an indentation from the street. Because there's no room for parallel parking on that street right now.
No, I understand that, but you have 32 apartments, 16 appear to be one bedroom. Is that all first floor?
Yes.
And then second floor appears to be 16, second and third floor, kind of townhousey,
They're on double, yeah, the double height.
double height.
There are 2 bedrooms on top,
2 bedrooms up top, living room, dining room, kitchen on the bottom.
and the bedrooms on the top. Yeah.
Correct. And so you have, is it 39 or 40 parking spots here, but you have 16 one-bedrooms, which sometimes that's going to be a couple, and then you have the 16 two-bedrooms, which you're typically, if you're having a two-bedroom, you're going to have couples, which means 2 cars. So our concern is there is no parking on South Lake Avenue. We've had parking issues. We've got parking issues with construction, as you're aware of, and whatnot. And if you do the 8 or 9 out there, when there are events, those are going to be taken up by other people quickly. So you've got, is it 39 or 40 interior?
How many we got?
It's about 42, but the city only allows us to have 40.
Here's the great irony.
Yeah.
The city wants us to have less parking. They're now starting a max parking rule, which I understand from a neo-traditional neighborhood standpoint. But we're arguing with them, no, we want to put more. They actually want us to both limit and here to remove parking spaces. So this is a left-hand, right-hand thing, in my opinion. The city, one department's pushing one way and another's pushing another, and they both make sense when they're thought. So we actually have a problem with the city there. They want us to take parking spaces away.
Okay, let me come talk to them. Oh. No, I mean, because if you've got 16 single people with only 1 car, okay, great. But then you add 16 and 16 for people with 2 cars, so that's 48.
Yeah.
If my numbers are correct, you don't have enough parking for people to park here. They're going to end up on my grass, up on the neighbor's grass, over in the neighbor's lot where my other neighbors, we can't get them to not park there. So how do we?
I expect they're going to end up in Barnett Park.
Probably.
When there's guests and stuff. So, but like I said, I don't disagree with your analysis. I'm telling you, physically, there's a limit to what we get on it, but we're actually being asked to remove parking spaces by Public Works. So, not Public Works, but by Chuck Barnby. And I understand that. So,
Sounds like you're going to be in the public portion of other meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, really, for this purpose, for the conceptual approval, for the approval of demolition, we're dealing with what they're following the guidelines, they're following city, the other issues tend to be issues with other departments where that needs to be addressed.
but I think the point making is you can say, as the preservation board, a citizen board, other departments need to think about their ramifications, whether it's dumpsters or parking or whatever, too much parking or too little parking in these historic neighborhoods.
Yep.
And it's, you don't want people to do what they used to do, to demolish whole blocks for church parking.
Right.
That's not going to happen anymore. But so there's a fine line, but I think y'all have sorry, Jason, on your, you have a voice as the HPB to give opinions on things that aren't necessarily in your guidelines, but affect these districts.
Yeah, and Melinda, I will I will definitely take your concerns to the DRT meetings when this project.
Oh, I also plan on being
Yeah,
there.
we might even put you on the team.
So is this gated or no? It did not appear
It's not
gated.
gated.
Okay, how are you going to avoid the other 90 apartments parking there is something you're going to need to.
So I'll address that. So everything you just said is everything that Steve Lewis has said I had fought for both projects, for Lemon and Orange, is the parking. And it's very frustrating to want to provide the right amount of parking for residents and or guests and have the pushback. So you're preaching to the choir. I mean, this has been an ongoing discussion for months. That being said, to answer your question, I think what we're going to implement is probably a sticker system. So the residents have stickers on their cars, and my property manager will handle that situation. You know, we'll signs up if parking crash, you're going to get towed, or so. I think that's probably the path we're going to go.
Okay.
Discussing.
Okay. Let's see. I wrote a lot of.
I think that's what they're speaking.
Gotcha. If I could just interrupt for a second, just
that
got
what that was
a technical issue. Yeah, Mr. Lewis, if you could come to the podium to speak. And I've been asked to give a reminder to all our committee members to sit up and speak into your microphones a little bit. We're just having trouble hearing and recording.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to repeat that, basically, I've had the same frustrations with the parking and wanting to get enough parking. That's been an ongoing discussion, and it probably will be an ongoing discussion for future projects. But to answer your question, as far as how we're going to regulate the parking there, the plan is to probably have residents have stickers on their cars to identify that they're a resident there, and that way we can maintain that people that shouldn't be parking there are not. And that is, I do want to do along Orange Street, that extra parking. I think because of the lack of parking that we're allowed to do, it would allow guests to park there. And I do understand that during events, you're going to have other people. That's just the way it is. But I think it's similar to what Steve did with the Florida Southern Garden Apartments. They had the similar kind of cutout on the street and added parking there. I think on Ingram and, was it Ingram and, which ones? You know what I'm talking about?
She does.
Ingram and
Lime.
Lime.
Yeah. So it's a similar concept basically, and I think that helps us gain for guest parking, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you for going 3 foot rather than, or 3 stories rather than the 60 foot, which is allowed. And one last comment to you. I have to say, as your neighbor, I truly appreciate the first meeting we had with you. Met you on the street as I was probably yelling at a construction worker about parking. And you walked the property with us, talked about potential issues, talked about there was a massive dead tree that was dropping branches, and within 3 to 4 days, you had that thing pulled down. And I truly felt that went above and beyond requirements, you know, and whatnot, and thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you know, I would like to maintain open conversation during the process. We've obviously had some issues with the construction on the other side of our property regarding parking and whatnot on the street, and would like to work together to figure out how to best help all of the neighbors during the project.
Absolutely. And, you know, you have my information.
Yes.
You know, we'll be in touch, and I'll do everything I can to minimize any potential issues, whatever they may be.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
You're
I think we'll close the public portion of this, take it to thank you, Melinda.
Sorry.
We had a question.
Lynn, can
Yes.
I ask one real quick question?
Sure.
It's real small too. On the renderings on the last, next to the last page, it I'm gonna go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth building on, Lake, it just appeared that the awnings were contiguous on the top floor, and I don't think that was intentional. I think they're all separate buildings, right?
Yeah, the roof line?
Yeah, the roof line on the Lime, not the Limes, Lake Street. Lake,
On South Lake.
No, that
on
is
South Lake.
It's probably the first, Emily, the first rendering.
The first?
Very first one.
Okay.
That one there, yeah, and the one after it or adjacent to it, both, it looks like that line carries straight across, like it's like a rain cover.
See anything?
That's the way it's supposed to be.
It is, so it's not separate.
Correct.
Okay, because some other drawings, it shows that all 5 buildings are like separate.
Yeah, that fifth building shows separate on,
We're actually between, they're separate, but we are connecting some points to the roof for rain cover and entries and walks. So yeah, there are some points, a squirrel can get all the way around.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure what the design intent was because it seemed like mixed message, but on the Orange Street, the buildings are all separate.
Yeah,
Right.
actually down at the first level, there's gonna be maybe a connecting roof over the sidewalk that goes between, go to the front elevation of one. So the front, yeah.
yeah, it should.
Oh, I see.
Actually,
I
right.
see it tucked in there, yep.
Yep, so there's a little connector down there in the bottom, and that's the side entry to both of those units. And when you go down that sidewalk, there's possibly gonna be a little roof connector there.
All right, thanks for clarifying that. It was just a small detail.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and we are back to committee discussion. Is there any other discussion? Do I hear a call for the question, a motion?
Well, there's discussion, I think.
Well, please.
Those of you that have been on the board for a while have heard me talk about, in a lot of cases, the height issue of 21 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not, this comes up, I brought it up with the proposed homes for Florida, for the Presbyterian homes. And I've mentioned also that our LDC should be coordinated, our design guidelines should be coordinated with codes that the designers have to go by. And these, like I said, these things have to have and should have in Florida because of our demographics. They should have easy ground level access to the units. And so we do have a conundrum there with the design guidelines. But, this is brand new construction, a very different situation than individual home infill in our residential neighborhoods where there is more consistency. I think really it's completely impractical. And I don't think aesthetically for the historic district, it does anything at all for us.
I don't think in this particular,
Yeah,
in
in this
these
instance, so-
particular projects,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So, I would suggest that we not have that requirement. I do have the sidewalk connections. That's not the intent is not from every one of those units, is it?
We are gonna have sidewalk connections. We're still exploring, depending on these aspirational rain gardens
Yeah.
and everything, because the intention is a guest walks to that front porch, okay? But actually to get to the second story units, they actually have to walk between those buildings and approach them from a sidewalk from the rear, okay? So those slots between will definitely connect to Orange Street. Now, where we go and connect to each porch, we're still finessing that, depending on some things.
Yeah, I was looking at the rain garden.
And that, of course,
with
that
re-
depends
yeah.
on the 21-inch issue, too.
Yeah, but yeah, with regard to the recessed units that are behind the rain garden, I think it would be very impractical to try to run the sidewalk to the porch, to the sidewalk connectors there. I mean, and the rain garden is a concept that is new but there's a lot of good base science behind it. And sooner or later, it's gonna start happening more and more in Lakeland. And, I know, this is, it was proposed for another project and the city did not, certain elements of the city did not like it, so they shot it down. But, that's a different issue. Again, we're proposing something new and often it's difficult, but I think, it's a great idea to handle our stormwater. Other than that, I think, I would, anyone else have any comments based on what I said, or?
I agree
Yeah,
with
go
you
ahead.
on the 21.
I, as a senior citizen.
Yeah, me too, all of us.
And I live in a house with a ramp, that makes it look bad, and stairs. And I especially see in a multifamily building where it affects everything for no purpose except that it's written. What's the process? Do we have the authority to take out that recommendation?
You definitely have the authority to approve without that staff recommended condition.
Yeah.
Okay, then what happens to the other code things and all?
That'll be part of that development review team meeting, where all of that will be hashed out. And I mean, I'm saying this as historic preservation staff, I do think that there is room to modify that 21-inch requirement. It's been done on other buildings, so I think that there's probably room to modify that somewhat. And I agree with your sentiment.
So we can make a motion for all the staff recommendation except that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can change anything or eliminate anything, add something.
Okay, then they would design accordingly,
Yes, right.
and we wouldn't have to address the others if we were satisfied with that.
Right.
Right, and before a motion is made, I just need to clarify a procedural thing, because Jeremy Moses did have to leave. We do have a quorum currently, but that's dependent on whether or not Melinda votes. So do you feel?
I will be voting. I do believe I can be completely non-biased in this situation.
Great, I just wanted to clarify that so
thank you
we're
for
on
that.
board procedurally.
I'm out of here. A question talking about rain gardens and drainage. Like on the Lakeland project, they've got the drainage under the parking lot, which has been extensive. Is that going in under here as well?
We hope if we can come up with an acceptable solution aesthetically, technically with swift mud, which we would hope the rain gardens would avoid that necessity.
Okay.
So that's an intention, but if it becomes a nasty, dirty trench, that's not the intention. So it's an aesthetic and technical question. But if we don't spend that, then we can spend money on landscaping in the rain gardens. And we'd rather do that because that's an aesthetic enhancement.
Okay, and another problem we've been experiencing is all of the big equipment on the Lakeland project is actually cracking our plaster ceilings. So we're struggling with how to say, yes, go ahead and help, so just be aware that this has become an issue, more so in our Airbnb because that's the side that's on. As for the demolition,
Melinda,
yeah.
you should document that before. Jason may kick me, but, and you probably, if you had that, you should bring that to the attention of Your neighbors, which probably just got me in trouble, but anyway.
Okay.
As far as demolition goes, I have been in the white building. The floors go like this. And the drug activity that has been in there has been extensive over the past few years. It moved from Lime Street over to that building. I am honestly looking forward to this. As much as the white building is, sure, it's historic, it is run down, it has been left unrepaired and has suffered extensive tenant issues for as long as I have been there, which is about 10, going on 11 years. The yellow building, 721, looks beautiful from the front side, but I have walked around it and have seen how bad it truly is.
Can we make a motion?
So, yeah. I personally, yeah, would like to make a motion to, can you put up the, your recommendations?
So this is the demolition recommendation.
Okay, so would personally like to make the recommendation to, for the demolition of the two buildings. And when does that 30-day start?
It would start today with
It would
the
start today.
approval of the motion.
So that's your motion?
Oh, wait a minute, then you still have tenants in there.
Yeah, it's not gonna be possible. It's gonna be a few months. So just to give you clarity, 721 is vacant, been vacant for 8+ years, uninhabitable. Frankly, 725 is uninhabitable too. I had a situation just the other day where one of the tenants called because the previous owner has basically, I didn't put Band-Aids, but she's concerned that sitting on a toilet, she's gonna fall through and she's on the second floor. That's just like a small sample. We currently have 4 tenants. One of them is in the process of getting evicted. That'll probably be out here shortly. And the other 3, we're gonna give non-renewals to move out, which is gonna happen in the next couple months. So as soon as everyone's out is when we'd like to demo and obviously give you whatever time to retrieve materials or do whatever you like, you know, donate what we can for those. I'm happy to do that and accommodate that, whatever that looks like.
Okay.
But just to give you a ballpark idea of where things are at, that's where probably best case scenario, end of March, to be able to have everyone out of the properties. But it could be a little bit longer depending on what shakes out with the tenants.
So would you be demolishing the yellow building now?
No, that's a good question. I might try and do both at the same time, but at the same time, I could probably do that one, give you the time frame to come over.
That really, if I may interrupt, that's really not our job here.
Right, but
we're approving the requested demolition. If you want to take out the 30 days, then make that in the motion.
Right, but we're requesting the 30-day demolition with the retrieval of building material elements.
Right, it's basically a demolition delay until architectural elements can be salvaged.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that time frame, it can be amended by the committee.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
We will tell Emily, we're starting the period now where y'all retreat and we'll do some things to do some, reach out to historic Lakeland. So we'll give her a 30-day window, but we'll determine when that 30-day window starts. We'll go
That
back to
makes
staff,
perfect
we'll
sense.
get it done.
Perfect. So then with that, I would like to make the motion to demolish with that 30-day notice being given to Emily to start at whatever point per staff recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any further discussion?
Well, as a matter of fact,
Roll call vote.
Sorry, guys.
Lynn Dennis for the motion. Dan Fowler.
For the motion.
Landis Fleming.
For
Melinda Rinker.
For the motion.
John White.
For the motion.
Sorry, guys.
Demolition is approved. Now we must address conceptual approval. of the design.
I'll make a
Correct.
motion to approve conceptual plan as presented, related and including with staff recommendations as follows. Number one, sidewalk connections should be added as practical related to the final design of the rain gardens. Item 2 is deleted. Item 3 becomes part of the motion, is included in the motion. Item 4 is included in the motion. Item 5 is deleted from the motion. And item 6 is deleted from the motion.
I'll second.
Item 6 deleted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Why are we deleting number 6, or is it just?
And I would add that Mr. Boynton did kind of address that condition by clarifying they're trying to work that into the design.
Okay, works.
5 and 6 really are going to be a DRT issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right? And like I said, encourage Public Works to be flexible.
Right, and those comments were basically added to kind of, bolster the DRT comments later.
Okay.
I would actually like to second that motion.
Okay.
Okay, we already had a second. But you may second as well, Melinda.
We have a
In your
third.
enthusiasm. All right, let's take it to vote. Lynn Dennis for the motion, Dan Fowler,
For the motion?
Landis Fleming,
For.
Melinda Rinker,
Yeah, for the motion.
and John White.
For the motion.
All right,
It's been a long day, you guys.
and conceptual approval as presented by Dan.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for your lengthy public service.
Okay, being
We have-
no further business,
I have,
Well, we have one
one
item to go over that email.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's-
yeah, I have,
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Boynton.
And Steve, we'll talk.
I was going to mention this.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
should have, I wasn't aware of it during the official board meeting, but if you all will kind of read this and we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay.
That makes
Yeah, I appreciate that. And there may be a couple, at least one case on our February agenda that this will pertain, that email will pertain to.
Okay, yeah, it's a good thing to consider.
Yes.
And we do need to make some suggestions to several city departments
Yes. Yeah.
that would be very helpful all the way around if they would take a look at.
Yeah, and perhaps at our next meeting, we can maybe discuss a workshop.
Yeah.
That would be a public meeting, not a public hearing. So we might be able to do that via virtually, because we wouldn't be taking any official action
Yeah.
during that workshop. It would simply be an educational
That makes
forum.
sense.
So we'll talk about that and maybe schedule that.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's frustrating when our concept for stormwater retention for the Summit building downtown
Right.
included a large rain garden type of solution,
yeah,
which would be, state of the art, showing that the city's moving forward, and certain city departments didn't like it.
yeah.
It's hard to fight these people that are just stuck in their
Well,
ways.
you're going to have to, with the emphasis on environmental issues,
Yeah.
where this is certainly a positive in that regard,
It is,
you're
mhm.
going to have to start looking
Yeah.
at these things
Right.
and move forward to make some changes. So we can be a change agent.
That's right, that's right. I think your feedback is important in that regard, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you guys for having patience with me as I literally went through a very long list here, but
We're next to it, so.
we're,
and thank you for your masks.
oh, you're welcome.
Very, very
Enjoy.
helpful in keeping the committee healthy.
Hey, we got to keep us safe.
And now do I hear a motion for approval, please?
Or adjournment.
Adjournment.
So moved. I move to adjourn.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you for your patience in another long meeting.
I'm just so glad Dan's going to take over this, and I'm going to switch with him.
What's this concept?
Yeah.
We'll just switch. Okay.